Hey guys, it's Kaz here, and today I'm doing my November wrap-up. Not gonna lie, November was not the best time for me. It was acceptable, but also I definitely could have read more, but I got through some stuff, I read some things, so let me tell you about those things. First up, I read Filth by Irvine Welsh. I give this one 3 stars. It was like, it's very... Here's the thing, right? I like unlikable characters. I like people that some people might think are dicks. But when you're such a dick and so unlikable that everything you do, I'm just kind of like, I mean, he's a full-on dick, I know he'd do that. It's kind of, you know, give me some layers to the character. And that's how I felt about Filth. The main character, Bruce, is a dickhead, but it's like such a dickhead that he has no personality other than being a dickhead. It's told from in his head. So surely even the most dickheadish of people in their head have certain times when they maybe feel differently. Maybe they're happy one time, maybe they feel insecure one time, maybe they feel other things than disgust and hatred and dickheadedness. But apparently not if you're Bruce. So yeah, that bit of the storyline I wasn't mega fan of. And also it's following him solving this murder type thing. It literally was a murder, solving this murder. But a lot of the story was just him going around just doing the same thing over and over again. And it kind of got a little bit monotonous. And yeah, here's the thing as well. He described himself as being disgusting and horrible, and he's got all these flipping horrible pus and gammy stuff coming out of his arse all the time. He's literally got tapeworm. But then like every single female character in this book wants to fuck him and does, or falls in love with them. I'm like, really? Is that likely? Really? I mean, don't get me wrong, in the film he's played by James McAvoy, and you know, we all would. But really? Also, this might have fell a little bit short because I'd seen the film, so I knew the sort of main twist of it. But at the same time, I would have liked more from that main twist. I would have liked more just for the storyline in general, because it was just kind of the same thing over again. And then every now and again they were like, oh yeah, yeah, I'm solving that murder and that. And then there'll randomly be points about his wife from her point of view. I would have liked more than that. There were points of view from a tapeworm. I would have liked more of that. Just give me more plot. That's all I'm asking. But yeah, it was alright. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't the best. So for the next chunk I'm gonna have to put the picture here because like some of the books are just in that monstrosity. I'm not taking them out. So the next thing I read was a reread of I'll Give You the Sun by Janny Nelson, which I loved. I hadn't read it in years and I kind of knew the main sort of gist of what happened. It's two twins, obviously they're twins, there's 2 of them. These twins, and one point of view is from one of them, one point of view is from the other, and it's like 2 years between their point of view as well. That was like the basic gist that I remembered, but reading it there was a lot I didn't remember, so I enjoyed that experience again. It's really flowery and pretty from Noah's point of view because he's an artist, and the way he describes stuff is just so nice and lovely. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I'm glad I reread it. It's a good book. It's a chunky bugger for a contemporary, but it's worth it. After that I caught up with Heartstopper online. So the way I read Heartstopper, I read a big chunk and then I leave it for ages. So I've got a big chunk because I don't like doing it chapter by chapter. So I think I read about 10 or 11 chapters in a big chunk, and now I'm going to leave it for months and then remember it exists and read it again. But I mean, what can I say? It's Heartstopper, it's lovely, it's cute, it's adorable, it's a comic online for free. Read it. Next up, on the 10th of November, I went to see Aurora and come back for my favourites for me to talk more about that because she was so good. But I spent 2 hours stood in the queue and I was really cold and I really needed a piss. So I was like, I'm going to read some on my Kindle to take my mind off the fact that I'm going to pee myself. And I'm cold. So I did. I read 2 Patrick Ness shorts from the Chaos Walking trilogy. So the first one I read was Snowscape. This one I really enjoyed. It's following a few characters that you meet in the Chaos Walking trilogy, and then they're doing something else, and then it kind of gives you some more info that you might not have known at the end of that trilogy. It gives you some stuff there. So it was really good. It was short. You get to meet some more Spackle, which are the aliens. If you haven't read Chaos Walking trilogy, you probably don't know what I'm going on about. But it's like humans went to another planet and there's aliens there, and then there's a war, that sort of business. And then the other one I read was The Wide Wide Sea. and this one was a prequel. It doesn't really give you any information about the world or anything. It doesn't give you information of how the war started or why it started or whatever. It's just told from the point of view of this guy who is friends with the Speckle, and the town do not like that. It was a nice read. I think I get it like 3.5 stars. It wasn't the best. It wasn't really necessary for the storyline, but it was a nice little extra, and I probably should have read them when I read the series, but I didn't. And there's another one that I have to read at some point. They were fun, and they were free, and they made me not pee, so good times. Next up I read Fire. No, I didn't. That's the second book. Next up I read Graceling by Kristin Cashore. This one I enjoyed. I literally had no idea what it was about. I knew it was a fantasy. I had the books. I read it. But I quite liked it. I enjoyed this whole Graceling thing about people that have powers, but what are the powers? You don't know until the powers show themselves. It was cool. I liked the characters. I liked the storyline. It was enjoyable. It was just a solid fantasy. And also, even though it's a series, it kind of isn't at the same time, because the second book is a prequel and different characters. So it's nice to have read a fantasy and then the whole storyline be wrapped up rather than being on a big fat cliffhanger. So that's always good as well. That's always enjoyable. Wasn't a massive fan of the romance. I felt like it happened too quickly. It was kind of like, oh, we're chilling, we're walking, we're chilling, and now we both love each other, but also not really. I feel like it was necessary, kind of, maybe, to the plot, but I just wasn't a fan of the way that it was done. Give me some slow burn. I know it's all in one book, but you can slow the burn a bit more than that. And then, as I just mentioned a second ago, I also read Fire by Kristin Cashore, and this is kind of where my reading journey this month went, ooh, because literally, for like a week reading this book, I'd only read about 50 pages. It took me a week and a half to get past 80 pages or something. And it's not that the book was bad, but I just wasn't in a reading mood. And I would read a bit and I'd be like, I enjoy that, put it down, don't read it for 3 days or whatever. So, yeah, I thought I was going to smash this month and then read some more of my TBR 2019. The ones that I've put on for my TBR this month. I thought I'd be able to knock a few of them off in November. No, I didn't. What I did do is not finish my November TBR and had to add that one on to my December one. If you didn't see my December TBR, go check it out. But yes, I finally did read it. It took me about 2 weeks, probably-ish. Maybe just a little bit under, but that's a lot for one book that wasn't even that big. But I did like it. I liked it more than Graceling, surprisingly, even though it took me a million years. I like the characters more, I like the world building more. This is told from people that live in the same sort of area, but over some mountains, and then it's completely different. That's the one thing I didn't get about this. So in this fire place, there's all these weird creatures that, it's just like normalised creatures, and then some of them are monsters, and then they go around eating people. I'm like, bro, how can just some mountains make it so none of these monsters go into the Graceling Kingdom? Surely they just crawl across. There's flipping, not pterodactyls, raptors. There's flying things. What are other flying things? Pterodactyls? Were there pterodactyls? There was some sort of potential pterodactyls that were monsters, loads, and they were always like looking about trying to eat people. As if they couldn't just flap on over to the Graceling side over some mountains. That's the only problem I had. Makes no sense. But other than that, I enjoyed it. I liked all the characters more. I liked the main character more. There was more characters than Graceling. Graceling, we kind of follow 3 peeps. In this one, we're intertwining more people. And yeah, I just really enjoyed the storyline. And I'll keep my eye out for Bitterblue, which is the 3rd book in the series, because I did enjoy them. And then the last thing I read was 1984 by George Orwell. Finally read this bloody bugger. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. It'd probably been more like 3.75 probably, but you know what Goodreads is like. All I knew about this book was just like the basics. It's about Big Brother, how that whole thing became a thing, and the government, and it was just, you know, it was a time to read this. P.S. don't forget to vote on the 12th. It was a time. And I was just reading this, I was like, bitch, this came out 70 years ago and there's so much relevant shit in here to do with government today. What is life? You know? So, yeah, it was a good read. I had heard previously about the manifesto bit, that it's quite dry and there's a big fat manifesto in the middle you have to read. So because I knew that was going to happen when it got there eventually, I was like, you know, that's cool, I'm here for it, I'm reading it. The first couple of chapters in the manifesto, or the first chapter, I was really engaged with, enjoyed. The other bit I was kind of like, oh, I need to get this finished. I looked forward and I was like, okay, 10 more pages of this, let's get through it. So it was a little bit boring, but it wasn't like disgustingly horrible. And then the ending, it went really sci-fi. I liked it. I had no idea what this book was about, or who it was about, or how it was going to end, but I enjoyed it. There you go. And I also read half of the Tigris Expedition by Tor Heyerdahl, but I'll talk about that in my December wrap up because I'm going to finish it this month. So there you go, those are all the books that I read in November. I was really, at the beginning of the month, I was so up for getting through the 6 TBR books and then reading some of the December ones, but it didn't happen. Fire killed me. And yeah, I'm just going to hold up these 2 books because they're the only ones I got. Here was what I read. Let me know down below what you read in November. Or if you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought about them. Did you have a good read in November? Did you have a good read in November? Let me know. If this is your first video by me and you enjoy it, and please check out some of my others. And if you continue to enjoy them, please subscribe, that'd be awesome. Anyway guys, I will see you in a few days with another video. Bye. You're so loud and purry.